Hey guys, this is part tutorial video for anyone that views my channel as my channel, but it's also a response video in regards to Lukes Affordable Paint Service making Stirland Mud. Now, as many of you who know me will know that I don't mind spending the money on what I need to spend money on, but I don't just chuck money out willy-nilly. If I can make something cheaper, then I will. Now, this particular video that Luke had made was made over a year ago. So he's talking about small pots for £3. I can't seem to find them in small pots now. I think they've made them bigger. But basically what I've got here is a Stirland Battlemire and Astrogranite debris. Now I have done this yesterday to try it out. I've made some modifications to it. You'll see why later. So I just need to find a base. Sorry, I've tried to get all my equipment ready, but obviously I'm a little bit disorganised here. Right, so Luke put a cost on. I've seen on some of his videos there's been constructive criticism about how things aren't precise. So I had a go yesterday at making it, and these are my results, which I'd like to share with you. I've also put a cost on. Some of the figures that I haven't been able. Do you know what? I've not got the most important ingredient, which is lost. Can't find it. Okay, so I'm going to pause the video and find it, because it's actually a filler. I can't manage without the filler. So I'll see you guys in a sec. Right, I'm back. You'll also notice change of glasses. These are my normal glasses, what I had on before was my reading. But right, so let's have a look at what I've got, and we'll make some scenery. Right, so the first thing I've got, I don't have the same filler that Luke had. I have this powdered stuff. When I try anything out first, I'll always try with what I've got. I believe, Luke, you used multi-purpose. What I've got here is, this one's from Homebase. I tend to try and get things so I can package them easily. I tend to travel a lot. So this is the powdered stuff. Slightly messier, but you know. This one's from Homebase, but I had a little look online, and I couldn't find Homebase or B&Q own brand. So let's go a bit extravagant. I found Polycell. Polycell is £3.7 for 450 grams, which is probably a little bit more than this. So there's the filler. Next thing I've got a stirrer. Now normally I use coffee stirrers that I get from Subway or you know, the coffee shops. In this particular case, I've got an emery board that's no longer any good. I haven't bothered. I mean, the rough side's fallen off this side. The rough side's still on here. I'm not going to worry about that, because obviously I'm going to put sand in. Sand I'm going to need. Now I'm using basing sand that I've got. This is expensive stuff compared to what you use, Luke. This is bought from back in the days when I didn't know that, you know, I didn't know there was a difference between kids play sand and basing sand. But I did find some sand on, I think it's Argus, £4.99 for a 15 kilogram bag. Probably can get cheaper. Now I did cost in paint, which is £1 for 75 millilitres. However, I'll explain why later. I'm not going to put paint in, so the texture paint I make is going to be filler colour. I will get to that. Also, I'm after something rougher. Again, I will explain why. Now, this is expensive because this is railway modeller's coal. It's something that I had lying around. However, I have sourced it out at you can get like railway modeller's ballast, £3.14 for 500 grams. You also need a pot, which I've not got at the moment. I've been using a new company. I'm not into endorsements, so I'm not going to mention them. A 20 milliliter pot, which is this is a 24 mil pot, so it's going to be roughly the same size as this, and that's 76 pence, which is the most expensive item, and then obviously water to mix. Now, nothing is for free, so I've rounded up the figures, so the amount of water I'm going to use is going to cost about a penny. So I've got my mixing pot, and I'm only doing a small amount. So what I've got is I've got one of these old, when you buy, I like to use washing liquid rather than powder, and the particular brand that I use, it comes with one of these. I like it because it's squidgy. So when I'm using spoonfuls, rather than just put it straight in, what I can do is I can squidge it, and then it gets the spoon in easier. So I'm going to do like a 2-to-1 ratio. I'm going to try and keep all of this on in the camera view. So obviously you don't need to put this in, but I've had this a couple of years, so it's handy having, so I know what it is. I know we've got instructions like how do you, blah, blah, you know. So I'm going to be quite scientific with this, so I am going to use an exact amount. So I'm leveling it off. In goes one, and we're putting 2 of these in, hence the 2. Right, so 2 of those. Just like cooking, put your dry ingredients in first. Right. Now obviously we want some kind of texture. So that's why we're putting the sand in. Now I'm putting two levels of sand in. Obviously modify it how you want. On the first go, I think 2 worked well enough. So there's two sands gone in. So we've now the filler. I worked out the amount of filler that I've used. Assuming these are about 5 grams, we've used 10 grams of filler. Work it out if you want. £3.07 for 450 grams. 10 grams rounded up works out at 7 pence. The sand at £4.99 per 15 kilos, 10 grams works out at 4 pence. So far we've got 11 pence in there. Now, I'm just trying to find one of my scabby brushes. I don't want to... Here we go. Right. When I was doing a comparison, I noticed that if you look at this one's the Astrogranite. It's got... I'm trying to get the focus in, I'm really sorry. Right, it's got some big lumps in it, as well as small, and I also noticed, I'm not gonna dip into this one because obviously I've got the grey stuff, but the Stirland actually is pretty much the same. The Stirland seems to be a little bit wetter, so that's why I've put coal in, or ballast. Now I'm only going to use one of these, one level, and that goes in there as well. Hence the 2-2-1. So we've got two putty, 2 sand, 1 something, basically something coarse. Now this is where I find out my stirring stick doesn't work. Oh, it does work. So just give that a bit of a mix just to get it started. And you'll see you've got, you won't see actually, right, let's see if I can check some. So what we've got is we've got a rough even mix. It's actually quite handy I've used the coal because you can't see the sand. But you've got some smooth, you've got some middle, and you've got some rough. Let's see if I can get this back in without making a mess. Right. Now, the first batch I made of it, I made loads because what I did is I put a little bit of water in, and I say little, not an awful lot, but it was loads too much. So what I've had to do this time, just put a little bit in. Whoops. And we can always, this is my golden rule. I mean, I come from a catering background. I'm not a chef anymore, but one of the sayings that we always had is that you can always add, but you can't take away. I think I might have actually made this a little bit too thin. Oh, that's fine. To be honest with you, this emery board, it's not really strong enough. I have put too much in now. So if you've put too much water in, obviously you can either live with it, and it's going to be sloppy. Do you know what? Actually, I think that's fine. Yeah, because I've got a big lump here. Yeah, this emery board's not really strong enough. Last time I used, you'll see the spoon's broken, because the last time I used the back of the spoon, and it snapped. But yeah, some kind of stirring stick. I suppose those cocktail sticks, kebab sticks, they'd do the job. Right. So now, when I did the first batch, that is a little tiny bit too thick. So if obviously, sorry, thin. If it's too thin, obviously you can add more filler, but try and keep the ratios right. So if you're using a tip, just put a tip in. Then you want to put another tip of sand and just half a tip of the ballast. But again, no, sorry. So going back. I think that's a little bit thin, just a tiny bit too thin. It's not too bad, but oh, I don't know. I think that's quite workable. I mean, basically, you're going to want it so it's not going to fall off the base or just slide off. Right. So the amount that we've made there, including the pot to put it in. Obviously, I'm not counting the cost of this because this was free. I class it as free because I bought the washing powder for washing powder, sorry, washing soap. But I'm going to transfer that into a pot which I don't currently own. And the pot's 76p. So in total, you've got roughly the same amount as you have there. This cost me £5, that cost me £1. So we're still on a winner here, even though I'm paying for a pot. And of course, I bought these because obviously I didn't know about Lukes Affordable Paint Service. I'll use these up. So I've got two pots. I've got an Agrax Earthshade here. That'll be used up one day. I've got two Null Oils. They'll get used up. So I actually already own 5 pots. So that's five batches I can make where I don't actually need. So yeah, could we call this 24 pence? I don't know. Right. So using it, obviously, now, as I said, the last batch I made, I put paint in, and don't laugh, I didn't have brown paint, and I wasn't going to go out and buy brown paint just for an experiment, just to see if it works. I don't know. Right. I suppose I could leave this out for 5 minutes, could I? Would that dry it out a little bit? Right. So I used a paint that I had hold of, and I didn't have any brand. Well, the only brands I had were actual like Citadel paints. Now I'm not going to waste a £2 pot of paint just for an experiment. Now a few years ago I bought a couple of paints, Just purely experimenting. Someone said to me, "Oh, if you're a good painter, all you need is a dark and a light shade of something, and you can make every shade in between just by blending the two paints." So I bought these. This is an amethyst, and this is a princess pink. So yeah, you can guess what colour I put into my texture paint. So I did 3 bases, and obviously one of them was grey because I'd used the granite, and one of them was brown because I used the Stirland Mud, and my base is purple. But that's not a problem. Now, the reason I've decided not to put paint on this is, even if you use the Citadel paint, you're then going to paint over it. You put Stirland Battle Mire on, you're going to then shade it with Agrax Earthshade, and then you're going to dry brush it. So if I don't put paint in my texture paint, it just means I've got to put a base layer down, and then I've still got to shade it and dry brush it. So by adding paint now, all I'm doing is cutting out one stage. But if I don't, by not having paint, because I feel that these textures are both the same, they're just different colours, it now means that I've got one texture paint that does 2 jobs, possibly 3 or 4. I haven't got all of the texture paints. If I put brown paint in this, I now can't use it for the Astrogranite, or if I do use it for Astrogranite, I've then got to put the brown stuff down and then paint over the top, which I've got to do anyway. So I feel it's probably more beneficial to have them uncoloured. It's not going to look good until you paint it, but let's be fair, a lot of stuff that we do doesn't look good. So I am actually convinced that this is a little bit too thin, but that's fine. You live and learn. So I'll put some on, and there you go. So you've got, I put too much on there, but that's fine. Right, now, yeah, that is too thin. Yeah, so yeah, I put a bit too much water in there. That's not a problem. So that's probably going to dry a lot flatter. So as a basic recipe, I think that's fine. If you know, do you know what? I'm going to scrape that off because I'm not going to use it. But you see what it looks like. There you go. Look, we've got some thinner stuff, and you can hear it's got that sand in it. So what do they look like dry? Well, this is the GW Stirland Mud, Stirland Battle Mire, and you see it's got, well, you can't see too well. Let me see if trouble is, if I adjust my light in a certain way, it kind of goes ripply. There we go, there's a nice close-up. And the Astrogranite, now if you look at the two, they look pretty much texture wise. If you painted that one brown and that one grey, I don't think you'd, or if you painted that one grey to match the same, I don't think you'd actually notice a lot of difference. So let's have a look at the one I made yesterday. Now, like I say, it is purple, but we're looking at textures more than we are colours. You see, there's not too much thick stuff in there, but there is a little bit, and it's mostly just a rough surface. So I think we've got a pretty much damn near identical match there. As for the action, now this is the bit I've not done. I have no idea what's going to happen from this point. I have done that too thin. Look, you can see it's all starting to separate. So be careful when you do your filler. Obviously, if you're going to use ready-made filler, you are going to pay a little bit more for it, but you've got just the right amount. Right, so going back to these bases, let's do a comparison. Obviously, at this point, the colours are different. But I noticed that the GW, it's rubbery. It's like it's almost a cork base. Now obviously the filler is hard. Let's see if we can tell a difference by tapping it. Yeah, you can tell it's got a slightly different noise to it. If you drop it, you can tell. Toughness, this is where I'm not sure. Now when Luke did one with the all-purpose filler, he was hurting his fingers. So let's have a look. That's quite tough. That is quite tough. But I can get I cut my fingernails recently, so they're not that long. But you can squidge it. Let's see if we can actually rip some off. There you go. If I squidge it enough, I can get bits off. And exactly the same. I'm convinced that these are actually the same material. They're just, there you go. And they feel almost like cork. Whereas this is quite crumbly. And if you push it, it will break. Which, I've got to be honest with you, I'm not knocking your work, Luke. I think this is slightly better. The reason being is if you want to remove these, I don't know, say you don't like it anymore, you want to change your whole army to a different kind of basing system, what you'd obviously do is you'd scrape it off, give it a little bit of a sand, and away you go. Now your filler that you used, which is nice filler, don't get me wrong, I don't think you're going to be able to do that with this. Now mine is quite crumbly. It's still harder to remove, but you see that I'm using a plastic ruler. It is messy to do, but now I can remove it and start again. In actual fact, oh, do you know what? I'm going to have to do another test, because that's come away quite clean from the base. Whereas this, to be honest with you, they've all come away as clean as each other. So there you go, Luke. There's a little update for you. Oh, do you know what? I numbered them. It's because I was going to paint them. Sorry, I'm a bit of an OCD with cleaning. I'm seeing this. It's got to be clean now this second. So there you go. I mean, I've got a horrible thing. This video's coming across slightly negative. It's not meant to be. It's like everything in life, music, films, products. Someone comes up with a product that's good, maybe revolutionary, and everyone goes, oh, this is fantastic. Really good example, if you watch the Matrix film, when it was released, the special effects on it was absolutely brilliant, out of this world. But then what happens is other people pick up on that, and then they improve on that idea, or there's more choice. You look at special effects on films now, they make the Matrix look quite ordinary. GW's come up with this particular product, which I've now lost, and it was absolutely fantastic. Luke, you've now come up with your product. Cool, look at that. Oh, do you know, I've got to show you this. This might actually be an issue. This is, I don't know if it's because I put too much water in. I suspect it is, but it's all the water's coming out. Now obviously when I come to use that again, I'll give that a little mix. So what will be interesting is once I decant that into a pot, and I'll leave the pot, obviously I'll put the lid on it, and then I'll sort of leave it for a week or two and then go back to it. It'd be quite interesting. Would all the water have separated, leaving hard solid stuff at the bottom, or could we just mix it up and off we go? Sorry guys, I sort of put myself off. So yeah, GW has come up with a product that is very good. You know, I'm going to move the lamp. This lamp is brilliant, but it causes me problems. So yeah, still can't see. So we've got two products there that are very good. Luke, you've then come up with a system where you can make the same product but for a lot less money. I've had a little go at it, and I've found the way you've done it doesn't quite work for me. It might be that in the last year GW have changed their recipe, which is why it's not the same. However, what we've now got, you use sand in your base materials, which has given you that texture. I've added something a little bit rockier, and I think the message here is, sorry, can't get my lid on. I mean, we could add lots of rock with no sand, and that would give you quite a gravelly. We could add 4 or 5 of these to 1 spoonful of filler, which is going to give you a very solid rock. So I think the message here is experiment, have a go. Like I say, my one, I didn't put any paint in it because I think it makes it a little bit more universal. There is a certain amount of mess being made. There was with yours. Preparation to make 2 different colours, you've got to use 2 different colours, and you're going to experiment with the paint. I suspect you've thrown some away because it didn't work out for you. I mean, I've tried to make it in small batches, simply because if you look around me, this is my studio. This is all the space I have now. I work contracts, so I'm moving around every few months. I've seen your studio and it's absolutely amazing, but I bet you didn't get that together within a day. So obviously I've had to adapt things for my needs. So yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely use the filler method. Use Luke's method. Use ready-made filler if that's what you want to do. Equally, you can use powder filler. I mean, I like this because it's just a bit easier to store. If the lid fell off that, they'd just make a mess. But so, could we take this a stage further? Yeah, I think we could. Well, obviously you use yours for making riverbanks and things as well, scenery. I know you're well into your scenery. I don't tend to make scenery. Could we get some little blocks and put that in instead, and make it look like a wall that's fallen down, brick and cement? I think the message we're sending out here is have a go. Thanks to you, Luke, I had a go. Mine's a little bit different from yours, but it's essentially the same, and it's essentially the same as this. So there you go. Thank you very much.